The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Be a movie. Yeah, we're gonna be a movie.
Starring everybody
And me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily. Be a movie. We can watch it all develop. Starring everybody.
And me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
And we are going to start right here yet again. Yes, sir. Another night, another triple feature this week. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And oh boy, it's my favorite time of year. Yes, it's Black History Month, where we celebrate not just cinema, but black cinema, afro-centric cinema. And as an ally of the African American community, I am here to speak on their behalf about the great contributions to culture that the African American population has given us. And tonight, what better way, and I don't know if you picked up on the subtle theme that I chose for this particular triple feature to kick off Black History Month and Black cinema, but we will be reviewing The Blackening, Black Christmas 2019, and Meet the Blacks. I know they don't seem at first blush like they're in any way related, but take our hand on this journey as we introduce you to yet another month of the great Black films of yesteryear. And joining me on this journey, as he has for the past 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, another brother from another mother, the one, the only other ally of the Black community. They say that white men can't jump, but Jason Teasley will stuff your shot. Arr. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Teasley, how do you do, sir?
Doing well. In the immortal words of Jesse Starcher, who better to talk Black history than a white guy from West Virginia?
Yeah, there's absolutely no cognitive dissonance on this podcast at all.
No,
So-
I mean, and you said that we're going on a journey. Well, I'm going to be on that same journey with the audience because, to me, I'm going back to the Sesame Street roots because one of these things is not like the other, in my opinion, Mark.
In all seriousness, yes, I obviously went for the word black. I don't know if anyone picked up on that or not. But it's funny, when I put this triple feature together, the anchor was The Blackening. The Blackening came out in 2022. I'll read the demographic information. Mark reads the wiki in just a minute. But just sort of as an intro of why exactly are we talking about these three films besides I'm funny. I desperately wanted to see The Blackening when it came out in 2022. And I was supposed to see it with a friend of the ex, and we never quite made it happen. And I got busy and she got busy. And then we decided to just not hang out anymore. And by that point it was on PVOD and I kind of just lost track of the film. So long story short, it was definitely on my mind. It was something that I had wanted to watch, and I think I had put it in an earlier slot late last year, and then I decided, you know what, let me kick it into, because it was something I wanted to talk about with you. You being an aficionado of not just Black cinema, but horror movies. And I thought, well, this is perfect for Jason and I, The Blackening.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I think I had attached it to a different triple feature. And then we ended up having to rearrange the schedule for whatever the reasons were. And I was like, you know what, let me move this into a different triple feature. We'll use it to kick off Black History Month, even though we had decided on some decidedly other weirdo triple features for Black History Month. And I'll figure out some other movies we can do with it. And then I thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if I just picked 3 movies with the word black in it to start off with, because I'm cheeky. But so I landed on Black Christmas, which when it came out in 2019, I believe it was, it got a fair amount of play. There was some discussion about it because of Me Too that was going on, and the social commentary of that film. And there is tons of social commentary in the Blackening.
Good Lord.
And there's tons of social commentary on Black Christmas. So I sort of fell ass backwards into not just a triple feature that has the word black in it 3 times, not just 3 horror movies, because we'll talk about Meet the Blacks in a second, but movies that definitely have a decided point of view. 3 movies with some fairly pointed social commentary. And I did this all by accident. It was a grab bag. And I was like, oh, wait, I have this. There's actually a lot of these movies are weirdly related to one another, besides the fact that it's afro-centric. So that's how we ended up with The Blackening, Black Christmas, and Meet the Blacks. That third one, I'm not even going to lie to you. That was me Google searching movies that have a black in title. And I vaguely remember it from 2016. It was not a movie I would have gone out of my way to watch. And frankly, if we weren't doing this triple feature, I would not have watched it either. However, and I didn't think it actually even matched. I just was like, I need another Afrocentric movie that has black in it. But then I watched it and I was like, holy shit, it's another horror movie. It has more social commentary. It's more of a parody than anything else, but it's still satirical. It still has social commentary in it. Like, huh. I fell ass backwards into a really fun triple feature. So what about you, Jason? These 3 movies.
Fun being subjective.
These 3 movies. Did you see them contemporaneously? Did you see them after the fact? When I proposed this triple feature to you, what was your reaction? All of it.
The Blackening, like I said, me and you've talked about the Blackening, since we first seen the trailer. We've kicked it around a few times, tried to fit it on our schedule. Like you said, things just didn't work out. So it's been on the docket for a while, and it's got shuffled around a little bit. So it's definitely been a movie that I wanted to see, simply because, we grew up and we're really familiar with, the Scary Movie franchise, Don't Be a Menace, the South Central, the parody of parodies. Sure. And that's what it kind of leaned into. And a lot of social commentary, which, a lot of times people don't really think that, you talk a lot of social commentary, but we tackle a lot of that in a lot of our discussions.
Weirdly enough, so,
yeah, and we take it pretty seriously. As jovial as we are, we take, our takes on social commentary, especially in the film industry, especially in black cinema, we've kind of took it head on and really got some really good discussions about, the black cinema aspect, black exploitation and stuff through our Black History Month discussions. So that's been something that, like I said, we wanted to discuss. Now, Meet the Blacks, I didn't even know it existed. When it came up, I've seen Mike Epps in it. I like Mike Epps in a lot of movies. Don't really care for him as a lead. I think he's more of a funny supporting actor. So seeing him as a lead, kind of, I went into it half-heartedly, like, can he really pull off the lead? The answer is no. He cannot support a movie on his own. He is the quick-witted, funny guy. He's not somebody that you can build a movie around. And Black Christmas, I've seen multiple times. I've seen it in theaters.
I was going to say, there's been a number of iterations of Black Christmas. Is this particular one you've seen a bunch of times?
Yes, I've seen this one a bunch of times. I actually seen this one in theaters when it originally came out. And it tackles a really interesting, I guess you could say, trope, uh, in a way that is kind of lighthearted, but it's a very serious aspect on college campuses.
Yeah.
And it takes it very serious, and that's the rape culture you see on college campuses. And it kind of takes it in a weird twist.
I was going
Now,
to say it takes it in a very silly direction.
yeah, all the way up to the last, the third act of the film. It's a really solid movie. I will
Yeah.
give it that. The first two acts of this movie builds a really good background, a really good story. It gives you a really good base, and then the third act just totally drops that and goes totally off the rails with silliness.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that a little
It
bit more.
really,
But yeah,
yeah, we'll get into it more in depth, but let me just say that third act reveal and final like conflict ruins the entire movie and does not do the seriousness of what the movie is trying to talk about any justice. Like it's
right.
it's almost an insult to anyone actively positively dealing with like Me Too and rape culture and all of that. It's almost unsettling.
Yeah, and it's really shitty because, like I said, the first two acts build this movie up really good. It gives us a good base. It tackles the issue really good. And you see like a really a good conflict. But then you get to that third act, and it's somebody takes a shit in the punch bowl, and you're like, yeah, this totally eliminates what goodwill you built in the movie, and just takes a shit on it. So, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. One was bad. So I'm glad that when we discussed this, when you pitched this to me, this wasn't our comedy, quote unquote comedy Black History film direction, because that's what I thought we was going with.
This was not our comedy focus.
Yeah, because with the Blackening, because that's what you pitched first was the Blackening, and that's what I thought we was going with. But and it's really weird because the Blackening takes kind of a really weird stance on some things, and it pokes fun of some social commentary.
The Blackening in a lot of ways is perfect, but we'll talk about it. All right. So what is the Blackening? Let's get into these movies. The Blackening is a 2022 American black comedy slasher film directed by Tim Story and written by Tracy Oliver and Dwayne Perkins, based on the 2018 short film of the same name by the comedy troupe Three Pete. It stars a bunch of actors and actresses you've never heard of. Maybe Jay Farrow. The film is set on Juneteenth, follows a group of black friends targeted by a mass killer staying in a cabin in the woods. The Blackening premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 16th, 2022, and was theatrically released on June 16th, 2023 by Lionsgate in the US and on August 23rd by Universal Pictures in the UK. It grossed $18 million and received generally positive reviews, with critics noting the satire of horror film tropes and ethnic stereotypes. It was successful. I mean, it only had a budget of $5 million, and when you see it, you'll know why. And it made, like I said, made 18.6. The critical response at an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the website's consensus was, while it could stand to be a little funnier and quite a bit scarier, The Blackening is a thoughtful satire that skewers horror tropes and racial stereotypes. Joe Lipson of Bloody Disgusting rated the film 4 out of 5, writing that while the kills in The Blackening are decent and the killer's choice of weapon is a crossbow is novel, it's the comedy and camaraderie between the friends that make the film stand out. Not only do these characters fight and support each other as real friends do, but Perkins and Oliver's script is also filled to the brim with smart, savvy jokes. The film is legitimately hilarious, tackling everything from obvious stereotypes to ingrained cultural prejudice within the group. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. But basically what happens is it's not that complicated of a script. It literally does like the Scream opening of, we have a lone woman in a house. She's joined by her boyfriend. They discover a room where there's a board game. The board game talks to them. It is the centerpiece.
Sambo.
Yeah, the centerpiece is a Sambo. They are asked questions about like Black culture, and it ends with the boyfriend getting killed and the girlfriend like being whisked away by the slasher monster. Then we cut to the friends, and it's a long kind of opening where you're getting to know these people.
Yeah.
We have two girls driving up with their presumably gay friend, and there's a conversation about, oh wait, is your ex-boyfriend coming? Oh wait, you're back together with him. Why would you do this? Kind of a thing. That guy shows up, and he is, I think, legitimately from Africa. So there's a lot of jokes about that. There's another guy that shows up who is a former street guy that's kind of married a white woman and turned his life around and is not thugging and bugging anymore. A very nerdy, Urkel-ish black guy shows up as part of the group, and then lastly is a loud, large black woman. And there's our friends. And the whole setup is that this is a college reunion that they're doing out in the woods. Not too long into them getting there and kind of dealing with interpersonal issues, they discover the game, and we are off and running. And eventually the Urkel character allegedly gets killed, and spoilers, he's actually in on it. It's a very talky movie. There's a lot of talking, a lot of just dealing with the game, a lot of answering questions.
Some of the questions are hilarious.
Yeah,
I will say that the friends question is hilarious.
Nobody dies in this movie. Like, again, there's a lot of like
they do.
That not
the twins.
Nobody that's part of the main cast actually dies in this movie, which I think is interesting. I think the initial girl, the first girl, dies eventually, but and they end up killing off the nerdy guy once they realize he's part of the duo.
He's the mastermind behind her.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's behind everything.
Yeah, there's twin white guys that are running around in BDSM masks that are meant to look like Sambo, and they are the monsters. He's in on it with them, yada yada yada.
And it's all over a game of spades.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is the Urkel character basically was like, I did all of this because you made me feel like I didn't belong, because I didn't know how to play spades and I made a mistake and you wouldn't let it go. So I set it up so these two white hillbillies would kill you all. But I had to shame you in the meantime. I had to shame you in the meantime by having you play this horribly racist game and see.
Well, it goes a little bit further. It goes a little bit further than that. It starts 10 years ago when they're in college. Mm-hmm. If you ever played spades, it's his first time playing spades. He reneges, and they out him about it. And they, when you play spades, you give each other hell. So they're giving him a hard time. They tell him they're taking his black card.
Any group of friends is going to give each other hell over any game you play.
Yeah, so they tell him they're going to take his black card and everything. He gets drunk, drives, ends up in a car wreck. He ends up hitting a lady. He goes to jail. And while he's in jail, he hatches a plot, or revenge plot, to get back at them for making fun of him for not being black enough while he's playing spades. That is the basis premise of this.
Okay. And that was actually a detail that I missed, so good pickup.
And I was talking to Mark about this off screen. If you know anything about the quote unquote movie rules, if you pay attention at the beginning of the movie, you know who the killer is right off the bat, because one of the major movie rules is in any movie, if you see somebody with a Samsung phone, they're legitimately your bad guy, because there is an agreement with Apple that Apple is never to be associated with any kind of murder. In any horror movie, they cannot be a murderer or a killer or a bad person in any movie and own an Apple product.
That's interesting. I had no idea.
And that's why when they're in the store, he says, "I have a Samsung." You know immediately that he's the only one with a Samsung phone, that he is the outcast, which in turn kind of shines a light on he's going to be one of your evildoers.
I loved the Blackening. Here's why.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've talked a couple of times now, and it's been on my mind lately because I cut the TikTok for it recently. So I was reminded of all that stuff that you'd said. But when Robin and I reviewed the 2021 Candyman, it was one of my favorite movies of that year because of all the social commentary and specifically dealing with the trials and tribulations of the average Black person, which is near and dear to my heart. And I really do mean that. Like, I grew up among Black people. I grew up in an all Black neighborhood, pretty much. Like, this stuff is ingrained in my soul. And so whether, you know, regardless of the fact that I'm white, and I haven't lived in a Black neighborhood since I was 12, it's still there. It's still a big part of my personality. It's a big part of what is attractive to me or not attractive to me. That being said, so I love Candyman for that reason. I was able to speak reasonably intelligent on it. Fast forward to the Blackening. I loved the examination of what it means to be identifiably Black, and they're constantly arguing about it. What makes I'm very much interested in this idea of we're so far having progressed through time and culture that the average Black person is having more or less the average white person experience in America. Now, someone hearing that's like, the cops. Hang on. Like, we have, I'm listening to these characters talk and change the colloquialism here or there, and it's every conversation I've ever had with another white person. You know, they're talking about relationships. They're talking about what happens after college. You know, they're talking about, you know, they're having
their life around.
Right. They're having conversations that wouldn't be any different if it was a group of white people or a group of American Asian, a group of American Latinos in America. They are having, one could say, the authentic average American experience, plus or minus certain things. Yes, and then you know, you bring up, like, there's a joke at the very end of the movie. They've killed the two white guys. They've killed the nerdy Black guy who's the villain in all of this. And then they ask themselves, should we call the cops and report this? And they all laugh and say no. Okay, that wouldn't happen with a group of white people, obviously. So that is authentically a Black thing, which is fine.
Well,
I'm not really complaining about it, but it's one of those, like, minor details where, okay, that one belongs to them entirely.
Well, I mean, even it's actually a callback to a scene earlier in the movie. The park ranger, who is laughingly known be white, they come out and he's showing up there, and they've all got weapons. Like, they all drop their weapons, and he's like, and they're like, "Oh, don't shoot us, don't shoot us." He's like, you know, they're trying to explain what's going on. And then they all slowly pick up their weapons and, like, go get in the vehicle with him. And he takes off to find out the sound. And they start making jokes like, why is white people always going to go after the sound? Why can't we just get the fuck out of here? Why they always got to run it? Why they got to run toward the sound? We could just leave. And, you know, it's just something like that because, you know, that's a horror movie trope. White people run toward sounds while, you know, and that was one of the taglines for this. And one of the questions is, you got to sacrifice who's the blackest, because one of the horror movie tropes is the Black guy always dies. The Black guy always dies first.
But there was a double thing there, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I've always kind of been irritated. I don't know if, like, I mean, we make fun of decidedly white things, but I don't know if any group of white people has ever, like, well, who's the whitest amongst us? I don't, you know, being identifiably, authentically white isn't really a badge of honor it is if you're black, which is weird.
Mhm.
It's a weird cultural thing, not a bad thing. I'm not, I have to be very careful how I talk about this. I'm not criticizing it. It's just one of those that truly does belong to you, because it's not a thing that we. And I think someone could come on the podcast and talk about like, well, why that is. But there are and there are people who would say it doesn't matter either. That your authentic blackness is kind of irrelevant. Just being a decent person is what really matters, and that is a whole other conversation. I'm just saying there's not always agreement about this sort of thing, but that's a big driving factor of this movie. Who is who is really black and who isn't? And I've always also found this interesting. Not to bring down the conversation, but I think about like Hotel Rwanda and like in the conflict between the Hutus and the Tutsis. And it was very much like a lighter black versus darker black skin complexion thing, among other stuff. And it's funny because if you talk to black people, that is kind of still a thing. Where the darker you are, like the less respected you are. And God forbid you come from actual Africa. Like this is a point of conflict, and it's not major conflict, obviously, but there are scenes in this movie, there are elements of the dialogue in this movie where the one guy from Africa is picked on from being too black, literally too black. That not just in this movie, but in Meet the Blacks too, it comes up where it's like, God forbid you should have the darkest complexion ever. Other black people call you out on that. That's hilarious to me.
Well, that's something I was going to bring up is because one of the main girls, she's got a white dad and a black mom, and they make fun of her. There's a picture of a zebra, and they make fun of her. They said, "Look, there's a picture of you," and it comes up later on. It comes up later on, and it's like, and says something about they're like, she's like, when it's in doubt, now my blackness comes out. When we're in trouble, now my white privilege comes out. But earlier it was like, you didn't want to acknowledge it, but now like we're in trouble, you want to rely on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then they're talking about the guy being from Africa. It's like, you got to sacrifice his blacks, and they're like, look, you are literally African. You are literally from Africa. That makes you the person by default. And like, you kind of feel bad because, in a way, I mean, it's in a jovial way, but you're kind of like, man, that's kind of fucked up. That's right. Like,
it's that shouldn't be a source of like denigration. It should be a source of pride.
Yeah.
But that is, it's weird. We joke about like two white guys having a discussion of black culture, and we joke about it because like it is what it is. But I really wish like I had some other of my friends to come on here with to talk about this a little bit more intelligently. Because that is a thing. It's a weird thing from my standpoint of arguing over who's the blackest, quote unquote, and in some of those cases, being the blackest is the worst. Like like in some cases, the more blacker you are, the better, and in other instances, it's a source of denigration. The more black you are, the worse it is. The closer
it runs the entire gambit.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's a really funny thing. And the only point that bringing all of this up is the movie talks about it. The movie makes a big deal about it. It is a constant thing they keep reflecting back on, to the point where at the end of the movie, where the villain does his big reveal and he's talking through his entire sinister plot, and he talks about that. He was like, "You guys not only made me feel like I didn't belong." You use the phrase, "They took my black card." That's a common enough thing. Like, I took your gay card, I took your white card, I took you this card, I took your black card. They took his black card, and he was like, "So I don't get to be a proud black man because I don't know how to play this one game." Like, that's it. That's the whole thing that this house of cards is resting on, is whether or not I can play this game that's culturally significant to you, but doesn't matter shit else to the rest of the known universe. That's it. Right. That's all it takes. And he's pissed about it, and kind of rightfully so.
Yeah, because I mean, in the black community, it's weaved throughout this in the black community, knowing this like how to play spades is like an inherent thing.
Yeah.
Like you should be like Bebe's kids knowing how to play spades.
They don't die; they
Like
multiply.
yeah, I just listened to that the other day on way home from work, and it was great.
Nice.
It was just as good. It was just as great as the first time I heard it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like it should be. It's like a birthright knowing how to play spades, and it's like
Right.
you know, knowing your upbringing. You know, that's something that you're judged on in the black community is how to play spades and like dominoes, and like there's these cultural games that you know that you're looked upon like you're supposed to automatically know how to play.
Right.
And it's really weird because that's the only community that I know that is like that. I don't see any other community and any other culture that you know you're inherently have to know how to play like a specific game to like base your value on in that community.
I was gonna say, is there like maybe tennis? An experience.
Uno? Would Uno be white people?
Yeah, Italians maybe. That's the thing. Like, I can't think of something that belongs to American white culture, such to the point where if you don't know how to do it, someone looks at you as like you're not really white. And that's what I mean. Like, it's one of those things that I think
police brutality.
Stop. That almost exclusively belongs to the black culture. That in a world kind of historically where black people were taken from their continent and sort of forced into the American culture, and then trying to sort of retain a culture of their own out of like shards of glass and garbage, and just sort of like create this, it's almost like soul food. It's like, it's all the leftover shit, and they turned it into something beautiful. And that's kind of what black people have done, is they've taken a really rough history, to say the least, of living in this country, and they created a culture all their own. And now they're constantly measuring each other as to how much do you, how much of this culture is a part of you? How much are you a part of this culture? And the way they say it is, well, how black are you? Are you more black or less black? The other thing I wanted to point out, one of my favorite lines of this movie is when they're talking, when the gay guy is talking, and he was just like something along the lines of gayness is just whiteness wrapped in dicks. And I fucking laughed hysterically at that, because there's also this, it's not just in black culture. This is an element of this in white culture too, and almost every other ones, where some would call it toxic. It used to be called macho. So anything that is considered, queer, LGBTQ, whatever, is not macho, is not manly. And so there's an element, and I would assume it's getting better, but there's an element of denigration of LGBTQ people in different minority groups. And so despite the fact there's shit tons of gay people, trans people, whatever, in the black community, but just like in the white community, just like in the Latino community, just like in the Asian community, they struggle with it. And so him kind of, through this character, the writer's calling out the idea that God help you if you're black and gay, how much harder your life is, because you're trying to hang on to your like cultural identity, and no one will let you because of your sexual preference. And it was funny to be called out, but also horrifying that this is something that we're still dealing with in the year of our Lord 2024.
Yeah, and honestly, I think he was probably one of my favorite characters because he was really well written.
Him on Molly's hysterical.
Yeah, I mean, he was really well written, and like he wasn't. And this is going to sound really bad on my case, and I really don't give a fuck. He's not overly gay. He doesn't like.
He's not satirically gay.
Yes. They wrote him in a way that.
That's a lot of gay people. That's a lot of gay people.
Him being gay. him being gay is not his identity. He's
No.
a guy that's he is a guy that is gay, not a gay guy.
Yeah, but I
It
think
is
that's
not
the
his
case
entire person. It is not his entire identity. It just happens to be a trait of his personality.
right. But I think you can say that about the entire cast of characters here. That
Yeah.
none of these people are one character trait. So as this is this person, this is that person, this is
Yeah,
the
they're
gay
not
person,
one dimensional at all.
No. Like as silly as the Blackening is, and don't get me wrong, it's a way silly movie. It's kind of stupid in places, but the writing is the characterizations are very sharp. The social satire is very sharp, and no one's watching these things for the kills. No one's watching these things for the plot. They're watching it because when you saw the trailer for this, you knew exactly what it was, and it delivered. And then you look at the characterization, and you're like, okay, these are people I identify with and want to root for. And then the third thing, the interpersonal drama is what's really driving this whole movie, because it fucking ain't the kills. Like, and I think that's the last thing I want to say about this, because I don't want to give the wrong impression. It's not perfect. I loved it, but then I love anything that has like social satire in it. It would take a lot for this movie to have pissed me off to the point where I didn't like it. But let's call.
We'll get to that.
Not to make puns. Let's call a spade and talk about this is not a good horror movie.
And it wasn't meant to be.
Well, I've said this before. Horror movies should be scary. This was in no way scary. This was almost like you brought up scary movie. At least in the first.
This was what this. Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is what I went into it.
Okay.
This is what I went into this thinking it was in the vein of scary movie, and that's exactly what I got.
There are parts of scary movie that are at least unsettling or actually scary. None of this was. Maybe
the first one.
Maybe that first scene, as they kind of getting you into the movie, but once everyone else gets there, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of arguing, and we watched Sick a year ago, you and I, and that was part of a different triple feature that we did, and neither one of us thought that was scary either. It was a slasher movie. It was someone running around the house stabbing stupid girls, and we both called that out, but neither one of us were particularly frightened in this movie. This didn't achieve that level of horror. And I gotta call out some less than thrilling craft elements, and that is, I'll read it again. It's a black comedy slasher film. Last I heard, slashers are in the horror genre. Last time I checked, the horror genre is supposed to be scary. This was funny. This was biting. This was entertaining. I was not at any time scared, and we all know what a notorious, hater of horror I tend to be.
Let's talk about this, okay?
Okay.
We also done Sharks of the Corn, which was also considered a horror movie. We also done the remake of Children of the Corn, which is also considered a horror movie. None of them scared us. We had none, though we laughed.
But I never once argued they were good horror movies either.
No, and this, like I said, this perceived itself through the trailer and things was something along the lines of the first Scary Movie. Well, probably more or less Scary Movie 2, if I had to be honest.
All right,
it was something that was going to be funny, but also tackle some issues.
So Scream is legitimately scary. There are moments of Scream that are way unsettling. Now, as that series progresses, it gets way stupid and it's less scary. But at least the original Scream worked in enough of the horror element that I don't criticize that part of it. And I have to criticize the Blackening for that. You have all these other legs on the stool are strong. This one's broken. And if that's okay, would I still recommend it? Absolutely. Would I recommend it to people that are sympathetic towards this sort of thing and enjoy, mocking Black culture while still appreciating it? Sure. This is your movie. Would I recommend this for somebody who doesn't really care for that sort of thing and is just looking for a good horror movie? No. I would not recommend the Blackening. Anything else about this movie before we move on?
No, this, I think we've pretty much covered everything. If you really want something to, just kind of a lazy afternoon watch that you don't really have to think about, but that will make you think. I know that's kind of rhetorical and kind
Mhm.
of redundant. This is a good movie to throw on, have it in the background. It's got some good laughs to it. It's got some really good social commentary. Very well written. I will say that the writing with this blew me
Yeah.
away.
Yeah,
The
the writing
characterizations
the writing is the star of this movie.
yeah, the characters we've talked about that. They're not one dimensional. They're very fleshed out. You kind of everybody can relate to each character in one way or another. You
Mhm.
see things you see the dialect between characters, like you said. You can see this being conversations you've actually had, or you see yourself
Mhm.
having with a group of friends.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is a good movie just to throw on, just chill out, watch, lazy afternoon, nothing on. Um, Definitely you can find it, watch it. It's fun, and like I said, it's a breath of fresh air, especially in this day and time.
All right, let's move on to Black Christmas. Black Christmas is a 2019 slasher film directed by Sophia Takal and written by Takal and April Wolf. Part of the Black Christmas series, it is the loose second remake of the 1974 Canadian film of the same name after the 2006 film, and follows a group of sorority sisters at Hawthorne College as they are preyed upon by an unknown stalker. The film stars Imogen Poots, Elise Shannon, Lily Donahue, Brittany O'Grady, Caleb Eberhardt, and Carrie Elways. Poor Carrie Elways.
People you've never heard of.
You've heard of Carrie Elways, and he deserves better than this movie. Development of the project began in 2019 when Jason Blum announced that he would produce the film through his studio Blumhouse. Sophia Takal signed on as director, and co-writer and principal photography began soon after, lasting 27 days in Otago. This looks like a less than 30-day shoot. Black Christmas was theatrically released in the U.S. on December 13th by Universal, coinciding with Friday the 13th. The film grossed $18 million worldwide on a $5 million budget. It received mixed reviews from critics. I can see why. Yeah, this was a wild success, all things considered, which, this definitely plays into the idea of if you fucking make a cheap movie and it happens to make a halfway decent amount of money, you will make profit, as opposed to, $300 million budgets. Pay the fuck attention, Hollywood. Rotten Tomatoes is a 39% on Rotten Tomatoes of 114 critics, 4.710 average rating. The Rotten Tomatoes consensus reads, better than the 2006 remake, yet not as sharp as the original. This Black Christmas stabs at timely feminist themes, but mostly hits on familiar pulp. Simon Abrams of RogerEbert.com gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying, it mostly feels personal and urgent thanks to some atmospheric scare scenes and some sharp dialogue that reflects the world outside the movie theater in ways that most other studio-distributed horror films don't. David Fear of Rolling Stone gave the film 3 out of 5 stars, writing, the best part about Takal and Wolf's take on the material is that it's angry, righteously, deservedly, properly enraged about the crap that many people, but one gender in particular, have had to put up with for way, way too long. Kimber Myers of the Los Angeles Times wrote, fans of the original might not love writer-director Sophia Takal's take, but Black Christmas is a fun film that gets its kicks out of literally smashing the patriarchy. And then comes Barbie. Okay, so the basic premise is we have a group of sorority girls. They are every girl you've talked to under the age of 30. That's not a compliment. One of them was allegedly raped by a
No, she
fraternity
was.
brother.
There wasn't allegedly.
They never show it.
It wasn't alleged. Yes, it does. Yes, we do.
When do they show it in the movie?
It's at the end. It's when it's during the fight scene. It shows
They
her
flash
getting
back to
roofied.
it? Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Fine, I take it
Yeah,
back.
it
Not
shows her
allegedly.
it shows her getting roofied.
Sorry, I'm
And
always in lawyer mode. So we have a woman who is raped by a fraternity guy, and when the movie starts, that's in the past. So we're forward in time from that point on.
It's like a year later.
This is a right about Christmas break. The 4 girls are remaining on campus, kind of like the holdovers. And there's scenes of them publicly talking about this sort of thing. They do a whole song and dance number about it, which then They start being
at the
stalked.
fraternity. At the fraternity where it happened, they do a little song and dance about the fraternity, about people being roofied at the fraternity and being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
It goes viral.
And so then they start being attacked by presumably men in robes and what looks to be the Fanforstic Dr. Doom mask. Or
Yeah.
or Zoltan's mask from fucking Flash Gordon. It's a lot of that kind of Scream thing where it's the same costume on a bunch of different guys and they're all just coming out of the woodwork.
Which you don't know till the end.
Yeah, they eventually. This goes just on and on and on. There's a lot of discussions throughout the movie about gender and gender norms and the gay culture, rape culture, etc. There's a great scene where there's a fight between a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and the boyfriend expresses an opinion, and the girlfriend loses her fucking mind and throws him out. And he's just like, I don't understand. I'm not allowed to have an opinion. I'm not allowed to voice my thought. And it's just like, you're allowed to just say whatever, and I'm just supposed to agree with it. And when I don't, you get mad and I have to leave. The fuck is this? And every guy on earth ever went, yeah, that right there. Not the movie. We all can relate. By the way, that's not the way the movie wanted you to take that. The movie wanted you to cheer the girl and be like, yeah, no, you're not allowed to have an opinion other than whatever the girl thinks you should have.
And every guy went, yeah, that's how we feel.
Yeah, that is exactly what happens. So anyway, the final conflict of the movie is they go to the fraternity house, and it turns out they're all possessed by magic goo. And the ghost of the founder of the college. And
did black magic and
yeah, and it's all a plot to restore the balance between genders, where man is God and woman is subservient. And a big fight happens, and women's are all ninjas, and they defeat the men's, and the order is restored to the force, balance is restored, and they are all the Jedi. All right.
Yeah, you have an Avengers Endgame level fight scene, where like Valkyrie and everybody runs in and like starts whipping ass, and then over these possessed guys who have like crazy retard strength.
Possessed fraternity brothers, by the way.
With crazy retard strength.
Yeah,
and you got
90-pound girls are able to take out these guys with ninja moves. Every single one of them was Black Widow. Every last one.
All of them come in with Krav Maga and just start whipping ass. And like I guess they took a Krav Maga class on their way over. Watched some YouTube videos on how to do some moves. They watched Royce Gracie early UFC fights.
All right. I didn't hate
because
as much as I'm making fun of it.
I hated 75% of this movie. I mean, I love 75% of this movie. Hated 25% of this movie.
So the third act is mad stupid. Here's what I'm going to tell you in a very, very clear, direct, basic way. When the movie is dealing with the problems between men and women, young men and women. When the movie is dealing with how do we define relationships between men and women in an age where gender norms are flying out the window faster than we can stop it, how do men and women form relationships when trust has been lost? When the movie is dealing with that, it's good. When the movie is dealing with the frustration of men and it being taken out on women and women not feeling safe around men, I actually think the movie does a fairly deft job of handling it. Much like I said about the Blackening, when the movie starts to deal with the horror elements and the physical threats of these ghouls running around the house stabbing at these women, it's not scary. The women are able to do things that in reality they would not be able to do, but I kind of went, all right, it's their movie. They got the stars got to live to the end, so I kind of accept this. And I was doing okay with all that stuff. I was doing okay with a lot of what was going on in this movie. I will also tell you, I'm not really in love with any of the stars of this movie, any of the 4 lead gals. I don't want women to be hurt. I don't want them to be taken advantage of. And that was about the only reason I was cheering for them, because I'm supposed to. And it's one of the rare movies where I have that feeling of, okay, I'm going to hope you don't die, but I don't really love your personalities. Your personalities are kind of shrill and grating, and not a single one of them changes by the end of this movie. They are not changed into better people by this
There's
experience.
No arc.
Yeah,
this
no.
This is very linear.
Yeah, this is as flat as a puddle of piss. So, and they don't, and they they're kind of twatty to start with. And so by the end of it, they're still twatty, but they've also defeated an army of men. Okay. The reason why I have such disdain for this movie is that third act, and only because Chris Bailey is because they introduced magic into this world. When Carrie Elway and the fraternity boys are just like, doesn't it suck how women can, and I'm speaking for these guys. I don't believe this to be true, but this is what they're thinking. At least this is what the movie tells us. Doesn't it suck when women lead you to believe that, that they like you, and you do the things that you should do as a man to show manliness to a woman, and then they turn it around and say you're toxic or you're sexually assaulting me, or et cetera, et cetera. My wife, ex-wife, famously said on this podcast, as a matter of fact, regret is not rape. And, there would be men that would agree with that. So they're angry about this. They're angry about their treatment. There's a girl at the beginning of the movie, the black girl, as a matter of fact, wondering, like, why did you include this movie? There's a black girl.
Because it has a black guy in it. That's why Mark included it. There's one black guy.
2 characters, a black girl and a black guy.
And the black girl dies early on.
No, the one black girl that I'm talking about makes it to the end.
It was a joke. It was a joke on the.
Okay.
The theme.
Her opening bit is she's trying to get Carrie Elway fired because she doesn't like his syllabus. His syllabus doesn't have any minorities on it. By the way, he teaches classic literature, and somebody makes a point of saying that to her. He's like, "These are the classics. We're supposed to read the classics." He's like, "These aren't my classics," and you just want to hit this woman with a car. But I guarantee you, other people listening to this podcast, especially people younger than 30, listen to me say that and go, "Ooh, you're toxic." Well, no shit. But also, no, she's right. They're not, there should be, everything should have inclusivity and representation. That's a debate for another day. In any case, but because he doesn't have minority classics on his classics syllabus, she's trying to get him fired. So between that and then a bunch of these fraternity guys just feeling like, we can't talk to women, we can't approach women, we can't date women, we can't be intimate with women because everything we do is wrong and we're all made out to be monsters. Let's just kill them.
No, not necessarily. The ones that do become subservient, they have a place in the fraternity.
Well, no, that's my point. It's a stronger movie if that's just the conclusion they come to. They take the oomph out of it by saying, oh no, that's not the natural conclusion they came to out of anger and frustration and disappointment. It was magic. Magic made them do it. They were possessed.
Oh, it's magic.
That is more queer than a $3 bill. It is fucking retarded. And I'm watching this. I was sitting in a parking lot waiting for Lily to get out of choir, and I almost threw my phone out of the car. I was that mad about this. I was with the movie when it's angry men deciding they don't want to live on this world with bitchy women anymore, so they'll just kill them. Okay, I'm sympathetic to this. Again, there's a line.
You can relate.
I can relate. There's a line in Poor Things, and it's the funniest line of the entire movie. It's like, a conversation with women is circular, and all that is left is to pull a gun, such as the way with women. And I'm like, yeah, bravo. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, buddy. Granted, he shoots himself in the foot and his brain gets transplanted with a goat, but that's Poor Things. And we'll talk about that in a few weeks. My point is, I can sympathize with the frustrated, angry male take. You take the oomph out of that argument, you take any kind of debate or social commentary out of the movie once you make it magical. that they're not rational human beings anymore. They're just magical zombies. And now it's almost like you're saying, well, men don't have a point. There is no counter argument. Women are 100% right 100% of the time through every single one of these gender arguments. And that's just not true.
If you don't believe them, ask a woman.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about this. I'm not with sexual assault. I'm absolutely with no means no. That's not what I'm arguing. But I think there is a discussion to be had about the failing state of interpersonal and intersexual relationships between men and women. And if you don't believe me, spend an hour on TikTok, because it's all anyone talks about now. Why aren't men chasing women? Well, you ran them all off. Why women can't find a good guy? Because they don't want to date you. Why is that? You're all narcissists. I mean, that's TikTok for about an hour. So
and
there's a discussion to be had here. Hang on, there's a discussion to be had here, and the movie won't let you have it because it invalidates an entire side of that argument. Off my soapbox now.
Yeah, and hookup culture is ruined, guys. Because I could go on hold on.
No, please. I just ranted. Go ahead.
Hold on. I'm calling up on my soapbox.
Oh, okay.
Because
gotta get your leg over it. There we go.
Yeah. Because if you watch, like you said, if you watch TikTok, you watch anything, you look at gym culture now. You have these narcissistic women who set up an entire production studio in the fucking gym. And if a guy actually glances up at him, he's creeping on her.
Right.
If you have growing up when me and you did, how did you date? You approached a woman. Now, if you go to a woman and ask her name or even try to talk to them, you're creepy. You're stalking. I've actually had guys that have been kicked out of gyms because they have spoke to a female, and they've been asked to leave to a gym because she complained because she says she didn't feel safe because he asked her name, and he was kicked out of the gym and told not to come back, and they refunded his membership, all because he asked her name.
I can't talk about something that happened to me, nor can I give you any kind of context. Suffice to say, at a place where I am frequently, where there's a lot of people, I was asked, why did I stop talking to everyone? And I said, well, I wouldn't want to be accused of sexual harassment.
Right. And that's the fear, because
hang on, I got it. But I'm like, well, no, you should still be friendly with people. You should still talk to them. No, why? So that one of them takes it the wrong way, or one of them has an issue with me and decides, let's blow it up into something way bigger than it actually is, or make an out and out lie about it. No, thanks. I'll just be grumpy and not talk to anybody. Such is the state of the man in 2024.
Right, and that goes to there. And then you see these people, and like I said, hookup culture has ruined it, because guys don't want girls with high body counts. But you could ask every girl, if you go out and interview 10 girls, you're going to have 10 girls to say they're perfect 10s. They're going to say that they want a guy making 6 figures and everything. They're going to make these unrealistic expectations. And only thing guys want is peace and quiet. They want peace.
I think there's a little more to that, but I don't want to spend this whole podcast.
No, seriously. If I'm just saying, a guy wants peace.
That's one of the things.
If a female partner can provide a guy with peace, everything else is bonus. If it's just give me peace. So you don't have so there's no fighting, no drama, nothing. If you can just have peace with your partner, that's all most guys want.
Right.
Girls cannot have that. Girls want drama. And that's the disconnect with relationships today. And that's what I tell my daughter all the time. Now, relating back to this, watch this movie up till the guy gets stabbed in the neck with the keys. Turn this movie off.
Yeah, that's she wins. We're done here.
Once the guy gets stabbed with the keys, We're going to go ahead and tell you the females win. You don't need to watch the third act. You don't need to watch the Avengers fight in the throne room. You just know how the movie ends. The girls win. Call it a day. You saved yourself about 20 minutes to make yourself a sandwich or fix you a pizza, make yourself a sandwich. Go take a healthy dump, and you'll get the same results. Now let's move on to Meet the Blacks.
Yeah.
And we're done. So plugs.
Let's actually talk about the movie. All right. Meet the Blacks is a 2016 American black comedy horror film directed by Deon Taylor, written by Taylor and Nicole DeMasi. It's a parody of the 2013 film The Purge. It stars Mike Epps, Gary Owens, Alay Hanau, Lil Duval, Brusha Webb, George Lopez, and Mike Tyson. This was Charlie Murphy's last film role before his death from leukemia in 2017, as well as the final role for Paul Mooney. Brilliant comedian, by the way, which just, as an ally of the black community and someone who identifies as transracial, Paul Mooney is fucking awesome. He's a national treasure, and it is a crime against culture that more people don't know who he is because he is. It's one of those things where you don't know who Paul Mooney is. Are you serious?
No, I'm going to have to
I'm
look
taking
him
your
up
black
on
card.
I'm taking your recommendation.
Yeah.
On your recommendation, I will have to look him up and listen to him as I work tomorrow.
I think one of his most famous, most accessible comedy special is like Know Your Culture or something like that. In all seriousness, Paul Mooney is one of these guys that like Dave Chappelle looked up to, Chris Rock looked up to. He's in fact, if you've watched any episode of the Chappelle Show, you've seen Paul Mooney before. I think he's
like a Bernie Mac type.
No, he's
Robin Harris.
No,
I mean in that vein of comedy.
I would say he's more like Eddie Griffith in that like he's
okay.
He's a social commentator. He just happens to be really funny. He was like a very underground comic because he's Black George Carlin without nearly the notoriety.
Okay. I definitely have to look him up.
Yeah, Paul Mooney's
definitely have to look him up.
I'm actually surprised because you and I kind of had the same similar walks of life in terms of culture. And how did you know you're so steeped in black culture and you don't know who Paul Mooney is? I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you. And I'm not really picking at you. I'm just like, I saw the same stuff you did. How do I know who he is and you don't?
Hey, sometimes people slip through the cracks on me.
I suppose. The film was released April 1st, 2016 by Freestyle Releasing. Although the film received generally negative reviews from critics, it was a box office success, grossing over $9 million on a $900,000 budget. $900,000. Go, people, make movies. Go make films. Just keep your budget low. Because you never know when you're going to have a Blair Witch Project or a Meet the Blacks on your hands. God damn,
good Lord.
$900,000 budget, and it made $9.1 million. That's like what Indiana Jones wishes it did. You know? On its opening weekend, early tracking suggested the film would gross $4 to $5 million in a little over 1,000 theaters. And it was released alongside God's Not Dead 2. It grossed $4.1 million, finishing 8th at the box office. In January 21, it ranked 5th on a list of the most streamed films on Hulu. It's a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. Generally unfavorable reviews. And the Herald and Review named Meet the Blacks the fifth worst film released in 2016.
This is a good.
Real quick from The Guardian. 3 out of 5 stars writing, while there's a whiff of social commentary in this low-budget spoof on the 2013 horror The Purge, only a comic performance by Brusha Webb provides any impact, saying that her performance was so unpredictable and versatile, it virtually makes up for the film's many dull patches. Yeah, so gosh, I don't even know where to begin with this. So the plot of this, I guess, is
the plot is it's shot for shot The Purge.
Well, Mike Epps steals money and drugs from a drug dealer and uses it to buy a mansion in Beverly Hills. And on this particular day, the purge is about to happen. And so a big gag is nobody purges in the Beverly Hills will be just fine.
In a gated community, yeah.
In a gated community. However, there's a boyfriend in the house that the father doesn't like, and so he decides now is a good time to kill the dad, so he tries to purge, and it goes poorly. The The drug dealer, eventually, is Charlie Murphy, eventually finds him and figuring, well, it's the purge. I can get away with killing you. Tries to and fails. And then and this is the funniest part of the film for me, there are 3 white guys outside the house trying to get in to kill them.
Funny.
And it's like, we only like black people in sports and we pay for cable TV just for that. We don't actually want you in our communities. We don't want you stretching out our women. And he's going on, and they're like cheering him on. They're going on and on with this. And finally he says something, and they're just, and I think he drops an N-bomb, and they're like, yeah, that's a little too much. That's like, what are you doing? And he takes his mask off and he's like, I'm really sorry. And Mike Epps is looking at him like, I don't apologize. I commit to the gimmick.
You meant that.
Yeah.
You meant that. Well, right before that, like, they show up twice. The first time they show up, he said, I'm going to cut the power. He's like, y'all smile so we can see you to kill you. And I lost it. And like, I was cracking up laughing. And
this
then
is made by 2 black people who. This is made by 2 black people after they had a session of snapping on one another, and like we're trying to remember the jokes that they made at each other's expense. It was like, write those into the movie. Yeah.
Then you have Mike Tyson, who is named James Clown. That's where my name comes from tonight. He shows up. He said, it's a pit bull with a perm. And then they make a joke about Mike Tyson biting Evander Holyfield's ear off because he's sitting there trying to bite. He said, "Oh, I can still smell it. I can still smell it. I can still see ear in your teeth." He's like, "Oh yeah, it tastes good." Like, man, it's like,
this is the kind of movie I would imagine Tyler Perry fans like.
Yeah, I mean, and then you get the 2 old people that they meet. He's like, "Hey, it's funny. Your last name's Black and you're black." It's like, guys, it's set a very low bar. I mean, this is a movie that, you have to have. This is a movie you need to watch high. First of all, baked out of your mind.
This is a 93-minute movie. It feels like it's 5 hours. Like,
yes.
I nodded off during this. I watched this while I was waiting for dinner to get made, and I was working with Lily on her homework. Like, it felt longer than it actually is because that critic, there's some dull patches in this movie. Yeah, there's some.
This could have been a 30-minute skip.
Something that the Blackening also did, which was, let's have long stretches of everybody in the cast talking at once. I've now referred to this as the TNA backstage interview segment. And there's a reason why we have certain formats on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, because I don't want crosstalk. Because when 2 people are talking, and spend a minute watching any Fox News broadcast where they have Brady boxes, or MSNBC if you're that bent, and you can't understand what anyone fucking says. Talking over each other and look, just in general, if you've ever seen like 2 people argue, especially when one of them's a moron, they'll just not stop talking. No matter what you say, they'll just overtalk you. And you can't hear either one. It just sounds like mishmash.
Nobody's point gets crossed.
Yeah, no. And a lot of movies featuring a large African-American cast kind of do a thing where, again, idiotically, everyone talks over each other all at once. And while I get that when you're trying to write a scene that feels authentically black, you need to write a massive crosstalk. It's hard as the viewer to ascertain what the fuck is happening in this movie. Dialogue is important. And this movie has so much of that constant patter, that constant crosstalk. I was getting a headache. I watched loud as fuck movies where planets explode, and Meet the Blacks genuinely gave me a headache.
A lot of this, and this is going to be a good, funny thing, reminds me of trying to follow the fight scene at the end of the first Venom.
Yep. Radulich Broadcasting. We just compared cross-talking blacks to fighting blobs.
Yeah, where you have no idea what's going on the screen. You're just in for the ride, and hopefully something makes sense.
that's the thing. So I walked out of work today and I spit on the ground. I still have problems with my lungs, and occasionally I get fluid in my lungs. I've got to spit somewhere. So I didn't think anyone was around. I just kind of went, Puh! And I spit in the ground in front of me. And two nurses walked behind me, and one of them about 6 dozen times said, "That's disgusting." Like, not once or twice, just to say like, "Oh, I don't like that he did that. That's gross." The whole walk as I'm leaving, and they're like good 2 feet behind me.
You know what you should have said? Me being me, I would have turned around and went, "So, that means you're a swallower?"
I would like to keep my job. Did you not pick up the subtle hints I was dropping earlier? So anyway,
yeah, I did, but I mean, like I said, me being me, that's what I would.
Okay,
that's what I would have said.
I'm gonna refrain from making a nasty remark. So anyway, my point is, like, she had to keep repeating the same thing. She wasn't making any new points. She wasn't saying it differently. It was literally the same sentence repeated ad nauseum for a good 5 to 10 minute walk. And I really did want to turn around and hit her. Not even because she was criticizing me.
I should have.
I spit on the ground. It's gross. It's criticized me. I'll take it. I got broad shoulders. I wanted to hit her for the repetition. It was like listening to death metal or techno. Like, for God's sakes, lady, say something else. And
better yet, what's the techno Viking?
My point is, that's a lot of Meet the Blacks, where the dialogue is Mike Epps repeating the same fucking thing ad nauseum 6 to 7 times. I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who plays his cousin that's out of prison, like they're having kind of a satirical, parody, funny conversation between 2 black guys. So I get that, but sometimes you gotta let go of some authenticness to, I don't know, make an entertaining scene. And I'm not entertained by something I see in very much real life that is grossly annoying, like I just described. The act of repeating the same phrase over and over and over again with no break is irritating to no end. And they do it all throughout Meet the Blacks.
And here at the RIB, we were known to run a joke into the ground,
not
and
like
beat
this.
dead horses.
Yeah, sorry.
But the whole joke of
hang on,
Carl's Jr.
Did you say beat a dead horse? Wait, no, wrong one. In my defense, I haven't played that clip in a really long time.
But the whole joke of them continuously saying Carl's Jr.
Right, Carl's Jr. Come back, Carl's Jr. Where are you going, Carl's Jr.? Like, ugh.
Yeah, and like nobody picked up on you're making the joke of a restaurant.
Right.
The first 45 times you said Carl's Jr.
Yeah. It was like the toddler who wants to tell you the same joke over and over again.
Mom.
That too.
Mom.
I mean, the stuff that works with Meet the Blacks, such as anything that works in this movie, the classism,
like the credits,
the class commentary, between the rich white folks, and the idea that even if you're like, and Chris Rock, I think, said it best. He was like, I wouldn't trade places. No white man would trade places with me. Despite the fact that I'm rich.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie comments on that. It's stupidly, but it comments. It comments on the fact that black people can be successful. They can be rich. They can do all the things that white people do, and white people will still see them as black. They won't see them as rich. Okay. Point made. Well taken. The rest of the movie is so dumb. I don't care. That's my take on Meet the Blacks. Like, there might have been a message in this movie that was worth discussing, but the rest of your movie is so bad, it's so stupid, I don't care anymore. Which takes you back to Black Christmas, where again, your message is good, the way you're talking about some of these things is pretty good, but your conclusion is so bad, I don't care anymore. Like, the only one that sticks the landing in terms of execution and social commentary is the Blackening out of all 3 of these.
Yeah, it hits all the notes all the way through.
Yep.
So
All right, I think we're done. I think we are done
Yeah.
with our kickoff to Black Cinema Month. All right, so this is my favorite part of any one of these shows. So I get to tell you what else we're gonna do. So next week, the 7th, we've got, and I
It's
love
interesting.
this feature. Yeah, it's our ode to the women who sing us songs. We've got What's Love Got to Do with It, I Want to Dance with Somebody, and Respect. So those will be fun. Lots of women getting beat up in that movie.
A lot of domestic violence.
All right, on Tuesday, February 13th, this is our actor focus, our comedy focus. We are looking at the movies of Richard Pryor. We are going to look at Car Wash, one of my favorite movies of all time, Brewster's Millions, and another classic from my childhood, The Toy, with Jackie Gleason.
I have not watched The Toy in so long, and I'm so looking forward to that.
Yes, me too. And then this one is another musical triple feature. This was one where Jason and I had like a Palestine-Israel negotiation with what to include here and what not to. It's weirdly not cohesive, but the through thread is it's an ode to the music we love. So the triple feature is Hustle and Flow, Black Snake Moan, which I have just wanted to talk about forever, and my favorite interpretation of this particular piece of media, The Wiz, which is, of course, the Black's musical version of The Wizard of Oz.
Which I have only seen one of those, and I'll let you guess which one it is, Mark.
I Prefer Blue, another Richard Pryor movie, by the way. And then we end Black History Month with the following. These are all parodies of some kind. It's Don't Be a Menace, yada, yada, yada. I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, one of my favorite movies of all time, and How High. And don't blame me, Jason picked that one.
Yes. I think I picked two. I think I picked one, you picked one, and then we was like, we have to do Don't Be a Menace, because as much as it gets referenced on the network, and me and you quote it so much, that it was time that we covered it so we could give it a long form discussion.
And any excuse to talk about I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, everybody should have their own soundtrack. So, that's another one I quote constantly. Like, I'll give you the choice. You either take the stairs or the window. Kiss my natural black ass, and he dives out the window. I was gonna say take the elevator. So fucking funny. Yeah, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker is one of my favorite comedies of
What do you say to the nice man?
Are you my
daddy? Message.
Why did you pick How High for that? What's that a parody of?
It's not necessarily a parody. I just love the fact that it's Method Man and Redman in their element.
Okay.
And they don't get the credit for their acting chops than they do for their musical things. And it was just one of those things that I just wanted to highlight. One of the movies I grew up on. I've watched How High. It was a staple in college for me. One of my many years that I spent in college that never graduated. And back when I was smoking a lot of weed, I watched a lot of it. I watched How High quite often. And it's just such a good movie to just like kind of just mellow out to. And have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh,
I'm not a big pop movie. Like, I know everyone loves Dazed and Confused too. But I'm not a huge fan of that one either. I've seen it, but I'm not a big fan. No, I'm the raunchy sex romp guy. I'm not the pot movie guy.
I think you'll be into How High because you're a Wu-Tang fan, and Method Man and Redman is going to be up your alley, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how much you'll like the movie.
I'm open to it,
but I don't want to build it. I don't want to build it up too much for you. But yeah, I think it's going to be one of those movies that's it's going to be in your wheelhouse.
I doubted you last year when we did Soul Plane, The Ladies Man, and what was the other one? Oh, Pootie Tang. I doubted you. I was like, why is this? This was one of those Nerdland type of things, but reversed. I was like, why is Jason making me watch these? And Pootie Tang was so funny, and I laughed so hard at it. You sent me a shirt. And the Ladies' Man was funnier than it had any right to be, and we had a great conversation about that. And then Soul Plane was what it was. So Soul Plane still makes me laugh, but it is definitely like this close to being a minstrel movie.
Yeah, but hey, you know, and don't lie, you catch yourself quoting some Pootie every once in a while. You can.
Sure.
You catch yourself with run a time.
That's right. All right. So this week so far, been a busy week for me. I haven't done 4 in a row in quite some time. We did on Monday. We did 3 movies that are nominated for Best Picture: Past Lives, Maestro, and The Holdovers. That was myself and Robert Winfrey. Yesterday, Dorian Price and Matt Kettner argued the merits of Green Lantern, and I was there to judge and keep them on track. I have one more triple feature this week. Like nothing like booking 3 triple features in 1 week in one on trial. I'd watch 10 movies to get prepared for all this. But I'm not social like I used to be, so I had time. So Evan Bevins and I are doing a actor focus. We are looking at Jennifer Garner, and we are going to review Family Switch, Elektra, and Peppermint. So that's fun. Nothing like tonal whiplash. Next week, Jason and Alexis will be talking the new Percy Jackson show. Well, I'll be at
it got moved.
Oh, when did it get moved to?
Yeah, it's I think it's got moved to March.
Just deleting this. She didn't tell me that. Anyway, so
yeah, because we thought it was going to be dumped all at once, and
gotcha. Okay.
Let me make sure on that.
I've already deleted from the calendar. It's too late. So next Tuesday, Damn You Hollywood, we got Argyle, and then the aforementioned triple feature, and then hey, we got Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk coming up on the 17th. So to prepare for that, Pat and I are looking back at Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk 1 and 2, and that'll be a week from tomorrow. And Jason, what's going on over at Mosaic Media these days? Jason, did you die? Did you freeze? Were you attacked by Mongolians? I think Jason's gone. So, all right, folks. I don't know what happened to Jason, but we're going to get out of here. So, for Jason Teasley, wherever he may roam, I'm Mark Radulich, wishing you a happy Black History Month. We hope you'll join us for the other 3 shows that we got going on. Celebrating the life and breath of Black cinema, as we do here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Be well, be safe, and behave.